Welcome everyone to Boston 9/11 Truth. Today is Thursday, October 17th, and we are very honored today to have Tony Robbins. Tony has a diverse and impactful career journey. He's dedicated 27 years of his life to serving the community as a firefighter, paramedic, and hazmat technician in the North Kansas City Fire Department. His leadership skills were evident as he rose to the position of captain of Engine 907 and later transitioned to captain of ladder truck 904. He's also played a crucial role in managing the Department of UAS program and took on the unofficial role as fire investigator. Beyond his commendable service in the fire department, Tony embarked on a new chapter in his professional life by pursuing a career as a professional pilot. So now we got pilot for 9/11 Truth. With passion for flying that began at the age of 18, he obtained his flight instructor certification in 2005 and started teaching part-time. Tony's expertise and dedication led him to the ADT flight systems, where he served as a chief instructor from 2012 to 2014, overseeing flight operations and conducting charters. In 2015, Tony transitioned to area medical flying, specifically working with an organ donation company under the Medevac call sign until 2020. His commitment to saving lives extended beyond the ground that he played as a vital role in transporting organs to transplant procedures. Throughout his career, Tony has exemplified courage, dedication, and relentless commitment to serving others, both in times of crisis and in the pursuit of new challenges. So we welcome Tony to Boston 9/11 Truth. Our particular interest in Tony is his connection to Papa. I think everyone here on the call is familiar with Papa, Protecting All Protectors Alliance. We've presented the evidence of Building 7. I shouldn't say we, the firefighters have presented the evidence of Building 7 to firefighters across the country for the past 3 years at the NFPA conferences with great success. It's really a breakthrough for 9/11 Truth. Welcome, Tony.
Oh, thank you, Susan. And please accept my gratitude. It's an honor to speak with all of you. And thank you for all your hard efforts. Without Boston 9/11 Truth, the trip to Orlando with Papa probably couldn't have happened. All the donations and the group effort was tremendous. So thanks to everyone who's part of that. It's an honor to be able to speak to all of you. So thank you.
It's an honor to support your efforts. Mm-hmm. All right. So tell us what you've been up to lately in terms of 9/11.
Well, I was in Orlando with Papa. That was the last thing. It kind of coincided with the starting of a new job. I started flying and retired from the fire department in April of this year. And I was in Orlando for simulator training, learning to fly the Challenger 350 aircraft at SEMCOM, very near. So I just stayed there and met Raul and Gene and all the firefighters to head over to the NFPA convention. And what a wonderful experience. What a bunch of cool guys that was. And the
Tell us
traction.
more about your experiences in Orlando.
Well, it was the first time I got to meet Richard Gage, my friend Paul from England, um, all the guys. Most of those relationships were either online or, with email exchanges back and forth or text messages. And to be there in the flesh was remarkable. It was really a great experience. And what a great bunch of guys.
So tell us about the reception that from the attendees.
Well, we made a few really good connections. Duncan with the International Fire publication recently published Raul's article, which is a really, really big deal. It's going to be shared across the world, and we're really excited about that. And it's going to be an eye opener for a lot of people. The people that we met there come from a very broad, diverse background, people in industry, people who manufacture smoke detectors and sprinkler systems and do codes for buildings, engineers. There's a very broad set of experience from the firefighting industry at NFPA, and it was really fun to be a part of it.
Well, this year in Orlando, for the first time, besides an exhibit group, we actually were able to reserve a theater for an actual presentation and workshop, right?
That's right. Yeah. Raul and Richard and Eric Lawyer, my good buddy Eric, and those guys did a wonderful presentation together. All four of them talked, and the house was packed. That theater couldn't hold that many people. People were standing on the outside of the theater listening in, and the timing was perfect. People were listening, and it turned out great. And at the end, Gene was there handing out literature for everybody and DVDs of Calling Out Bravo 7, the documentary that Paul made. I'm sure you guys have seen that. But just hitting up a lot of people, and there was a lot of interest.
Well, it was, from all that I've learned, a tremendous success, and in my opinion, possibly the greatest breakthrough in 23 years that 9/11 Truth has made so far. So I just very honored to have you on, and representing Papa, and we just, it's such an incredible team that has been put together. So what do you think of reaching out to pilots now?
Well, I'm certainly open to that. Pilots are not necessarily called to duty like firefighters are. They have a mission to fly and to get passengers from point A to point B, or whatever their company demands from them. Being a firefighter was a moral obligation. We had a civic duty to protect our communities and to provide awareness and prevention to prevent people from being harmed, not just by fire, but from a huge safety aspect. And that was my biggest challenge. That was a huge challenge of my career. The picture you're looking at now is me with my ladder truck. There's King Richard and Eric, who most of you might recognize. The guy on the right in the picture, his name is John Yinger. He was my driver for the last 7 years of my career. And he was also a very big 9/11 truth advocate. And he died a year ago of a heart attack.
Wow.
So I miss him very much. But I really want you guys to know the impact that he had not only on my life, but a lot of others' lives. He was mocked and ridiculed for many years for being a conspiracy theorist, but he was also brave enough to continue that journey, and certainly brought a lot of things to light for me.
Wow. Wow. That's so. Was he the one who brought you into 9/11 Truth?
I think, yeah, I think
Oh.
he raised two daughters like I did, and his daughters came to him with Reddit and some things that were on the internet around 2013, 2014, and he had a lot of questions for me as a pilot because I was growing my career, and he'd ask questions about, hey, can an airplane do this? Does this make sense to you? And yeah, he challenged me, frankly. I didn't know how to answer a lot of his questions. And then we kind of bonded over 9/11. I felt a responsibility as his captain to give him answers and try to allay his concerns. But it was probably the biggest challenge I ever had as a leader. So we worked it out together, became very good friends. And, I miss him very much.
Yeah. So back to pilots for 9/11 Truth. You brought up a very good aspect that Dan Hanley has brought up. That what can these planes do or not do, and is the official story even feasible in terms of the flight paths and the patterns? So have you collaborated at all with Dan Hanley?
No, I haven't. I've read a lot of his material and watched a lot of his podcasts. And yeah, I find his perspective intriguing. And, I don't see a whole lot that I disagree with. I know he's in Pakistan. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, I think
So
he's married to a Pakistani.
yeah. So no, I haven't really spoken with him. I've had some conversations with oh gosh, I'm having a brain fart. Oh,
Paul Balsamo.
Ted Walter.
Ted Walter. Ted Walter is actually working on a project with Dan Hanley now, and digging really deep into some technical aspects of aviation. And I extended my expertise to them if they had any questions, or if there's any way I could help at all, I'd be happy to do so. But
Yeah.
just
I'd like to
just a
mention
couple.
that Rob Balsamo, it was Rob Balsamo, and he passed away a
right.
number.
I forgot about that. I'm sorry. Yeah. So who's operating pilots for 9/11 Truth now?
I have no idea.
Rob's
Dan
site
Hanley.
went dead. It was abandoned.
So nobody is.
No, that's correct. That is correct. Nobody is.
So it could be taken over. The domain name's available, right?
I have no idea. But I have all the DVDs, almost every DVD that pilots produced, that Rob Balsamo's group produced.
Okay. So that's an opportunity to think about, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm certainly, yeah, I'd help any way I can. I'm kind of a jack of all trades, but a master of none. So don't set your expectations so high. But you have a lot of great people that are down for the cause and helping, and kudos to them, especially Raul, the
Oh,
big ragu, man. What a guy.
yep. Yep. So there was a lot of camaraderie going on with the whole team in Orlando. Looks like you all had a wonderful time together. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Raul's definitely a guy that I would have loved to have served with on a ladder truck. And the same goes with Paul and Eric. And I think Gene would have made a hell of a firefighter. It would have been awesome. Um, what a great crew that would have been.
I want to thank Gene. He's the one who's responsible for all the share screens. I'm not quick enough on the fly to do that, and I'm glad he's so good at that. Yeah, because I'd be kind of lost and fumbling around if it weren't for
Oh,
that.
he's good. He's really good.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Tony, where can you get a copy of the article that you're referring to that were all published recently?
Gene, pull it up. The International Fire Safety Journal.
Okay. Gene, can you send that to me then?
A bunch of us have also shared it on Facebook. Richard Gage shared it. I shared it. Al shared it. So if you look for it on Facebook, you'll find it there too.
I'd like to put it up on our websites. I mean, in our areas that people read, because I don't have it.
Yeah,
And our webmaster's been down for a little bit.
yeah, we're suffering the same thing.
Yeah. And Tony, are you aware of Operation Northwoods? That was the Joint Chiefs of Staff secret document that got released years ago.
Oh, yes. I'm very familiar. Yeah.
Okay. Because that had remote access too. So that's 1961, I think.
Yeah.
It's a long time ago. So it's obviously around.
That was a program that was shot down by JFK.
Yeah.
Yeah, he saw the moral issues with it, I think. But of course, we all know what happened to JFK as well.
Now, the military always has lots of contingency plans on everything, every country, every war they can possibly think to create anyway. They're all sitting on a shelf somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, we live in a very sophisticated world, and I think sometimes it's very noisy and confusing and distracting to young people. And we've got big challenges ahead, and if we don't face those challenges, they're going to affect us in a big way. And that's my concern. I want to help sustain a culture that we all desire and build a more perfect union. That's the concept of the United States that I grew up in. And it's concerning. It's very, very concerning.
Sorry.
Yeah. At the same time, I'm also fully living. I'm a very happy guy. I've lived on the edge of every dream I've ever had. I'm very lucky. I'm very grateful. I have a beautiful family that I love very much. And I get to do some really cool things for a living. So
You do.
pretty happy about that.
Al has his hand raised.
Real quick, that link is in the chat for anybody that wants to see that article that Raul wrote that Tony referenced.
Tony, I wonder if you could share with us how you, when you became aware of 9/11 and the problems with it, and how you approached the guys that you worked with, and what you think the best approach really is approaching firefighters. We've had a difficult time in the past. We've gone around to firehouses and handed out literature, and I don't know if you have a perspective on how receptive the best thing you can talk to a firefighter about. Anything like that would be interesting.
Yeah. it was about 2013. I can't pinpoint the month that it was in my subconscious for a number of years. Um, I'd seen parts of the documentary Loose Change and saw some things that were eyebrow raising, but didn't have the capacity or the intentions to really figure out the entire story. It wasn't until about 2015 where the fire department put John and I together at the same station. My medic, Rich Bath, was also kind of part of that as well. And it was the three of us that kind of collaborated and challenged each other to look at things and distinguish fact from fiction. I had a background in aviation. John had a background in construction, and Rich had a background in finance. And so, with all of our areas of expertise, we kind of painted the picture for ourselves. It wasn't overnight that we just woke up one day and said, "Hey, we know everything." We knew that something foul was at play, and it took a lot of work. And it's different. Everybody has a different perspective. The young guys that come into the fire department are looking for leadership. They're looking to learn, and they want to do good for the fire department. They're more eager and interested in learning. The people who live through 9/11, it's harder for them. I think the psychologist for 9/11 Truth, Fran Dresser, what's the group? I don't know the names.
Brian Shore.
Yeah, I think they've done
Sure.
Brian Sure. I think they've done a really good job of explaining how humans react to tragedy, and it is a hard thing. It's a challenge. The old guys that I worked with that they bought into it. They were manipulated. It's hard to come to grips with being manipulated on that level. I heard the story of Plato's allegory of the cave. The book Plato's Republic in chapter 7 talks about the caveman that comes out, sees the sun for the first time, and he's trying to describe the world around him. He goes back to the cave and tries to tell the others, and the others, don't believe him. It's a very great allegory, and it certainly reflects on our world today. A lot of people would rather not take the blinders off, especially if they've been manipulated like the fire service has. It's hard, but I want to do my best to correct it. I want to help. I think that we just had a meeting about our Papa meeting talked about a class. We have some great talent with instructors, and I think teaching others is probably the mission now. We can't change the past, but we can certainly affect the future. And I don't know what that would look like right now, but I'm sure we can group think and come up with a lot of great ideas. That's our mission now.
That's for sure. Yeah, it's all about the upcoming generation as far as I'm concerned. Miles has his hand raised.
Hello from Canada.
Hi, Miles.
Nice to meet
Hi,
you.
Miles.
I just wanted to draw out your attention and everyone here to a link that I just posted. By coincidence, I watched this Professor Matthias Desmet of the University of Ghent, Belgium. And he's talking with the interviewer about his concept of what he calls mass formation psychosis. It's nothing really we all don't know and haven't talked about, but it's very worthwhile listening to, because mass formation psychosis is essentially these issues that come along where there's a 15 to 20% ruling elite. There's 80% of the masses who are, just doing their day-to-day jobs and putting food on the table. But then there's hopefully always a few percent who are saying, hold it, wait a minute. And that's what you are in Papa and the rest of us to other efforts. And what he connects it to, and something for us to be thinking about, is how a population that is anxious and particularly lonely, loneliness was actually being really recognized just before COVID. And lonely people will, as soon as they're told, oh, we have to rally around some cause such as COVID, which this professor said he immediately did statistical analysis, which is his specialty. And he found, hey, this is not as serious an illness as we're being told it is. But powers that be told us, oh, this is going to kill you and you've got to isolate. So the same thing with, of course, 9/11. But anyway, you're working with the community of firefighters, and I would hope that that they're a pretty solid community. So they maybe have the strength to handle this message. And I think it's so great that Raul's article has been published in the technical journal. And the important thing I'll conclude on this is that we keep doing it. A few percent who are saying, hey, hold it just a minute. Maybe we did provoke Russia. Maybe there's something more to Building 7 and all these other narratives that are official. It's important because without a small group, it only takes a small group to prevent the society from descending into serious, total totalitarianism, where children start turning in their parents and parents start turning in their children for so-called thought crimes, not being on with the groupthink. So, bit of a speech, but really appreciate what you at Papa are doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Miles. Thank you. Yeah, I agree. The mass formation psychosis was something that I witnessed in my community. It's hard to stare at thousands of people and tell them that they're acting psychotic. But yeah, I saw people follow arrows in the grocery stores and, put grandma's knitted face covering over their face to protect themselves. And, frankly, a lot of the things that happened during COVID were contrary to the things that I had been taught as a hazmat technician and specialist and paramedic. It's very concerning. 9/11 is concerning. 3,000 people died that day, but millions of lives have been affected by COVID. And it doesn't necessarily take a bullet or a bomb to kill people anymore. Sometimes it's a little bit more cunning. And, I hate to see people suffer. Sometimes it's not as expedient as those in power wish it to be, but I'm seeing devastating effects. The world's changing right before my eyes. And, as great as it is, there's a lot of harm being caused, and it's a tough challenge. It's something that
Let's
we
not,
as people.
let's not forget, it wasn't, 3,000 American deaths on the day of 9/11, or close to 3,000. That wasn't all consequences of 9/11 with the war in Afghanistan and Iraq. Now we're talking millions.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Still
it's
going.
affected us globally. We have to eventually decide how we want to show up as humans, as humanity. And yeah, it's
Tony, the firefighter amounts that have died is a lot more than that 300 on 9/11. It's
oh, yeah, I'm familiar.
because of the lungs and all that. Is it close to 2,000 now?
Yeah, they have a memorial for that in New York. I've been there. Um, I traveled to New York a lot over the last decade and a half. I met Rudy Dent in person on a couple different occasions, and I made it a point to visit about half of the fire stations in Manhattan. And it's kind of hard to have conversations with those guys. You need an opener, and you got to form a relationship before people are really willing to talk about it. But yeah, a lot of people have suffered. They were told that the air was safe, and the air was not safe.
What I noticed in 2016 when we had our conference there was quite a few, 15 years after 9/11 was New York was still traumatized. The
Yeah.
people that I would talk to there, I had one lady that said, "I'd like to talk to you, but I'm afraid to talk to anybody. I'm afraid someone's following me." I mean, they're just some of the sense I got from the New Yorkers. They were still traumatized
Yeah.
at that point. They probably still are now, which doesn't open you up to thinking.
I know. It's a tough problem. Um, everybody's in their own little bubble, living in their own echo chamber, and they do what they think is right. And it's led me on a quest for answers. It's like I love puzzles. I love solving problems, and that's why I love firefighting so much. And this is a very, very human problem. And until we fix this human problem, I don't know that we're going to get anywhere with anything else. We're going to keep seeing more weapons of mass destruction, more turmoil, more human toil. And the guy that it led me to, his name is Dr. David Martin. And he runs this thing called Fully Live Academy. He taught me something that I kind of knew at the beginning of paramedic school. Well, a prerequisite for paramedic school was anatomy and physiology. And they made us memorize these 12 cranial nerves. We memorized it for a test and took the test, and then they never really talked about them again, at least not in any depth. But since Aristotle, was it 3,000 years ago, Aristotle wrote De Anima, we've been told that there's a notion of 5 senses: sight, smell, touch, taste, and hearing, but we're wired for 12.
Wow.
Each one of the cranial nerves is unique, and it's how we perceive the world around us. And the thing about a sense, in order for a sense to make sense, you have to know that that sense exists.
Huh.
And I think that maybe because we've been told that we only have 5 senses, and the way our education system is, and the things that are being pushed into our ecosystem, like bio warfare agents that knock out the sense of smell and taste. Did you hear what I said? That maybe those senses are atrophied in a way that cause human toil, that cause conflict, communication problems, division.
Mm.
And that's how I see evil creeping in every single time. It starts with separation. Separation, distinguishment, hierarchy. and subjugation.
Yeah.
It happens again and again and again and again. And these are the kind of things that David is teaching in his classes. And I'm not saying it's the answer to everything. I don't know. It takes a lot of participation, but it's certainly a new formula. And I think it could work very well.
Is he the same David Martin that had that book on all the patents that relates to COVID?
Yes. He ran a
Okay,
company
yeah.
called MCAM, and he did um, intellectual property law, and he did all that for many, many years.
I don't know his background. I've tried to find that. Can you tell me
Yeah.
what his background is?
Well, you meet people that are interesting. You have people that influence your lives, like professors in college or teachers or some people. David blows the lid off of everything I ever thought I knew. He has a background in law. He's a linguist. He's a computer programmer. He designed a program called Linguistic Genomics, which is Chat GPT on steroids, and he invented it decades ago. It's been used in our own intelligence communities. He's written parts of constitutions or entire constitutions in a number of countries across the world.
Who does he work for? Himself or?
He was invited to participate in the planning of 9/11.
So he was intelligence.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's why he didn't say it. Okay.
And he turned them down. And one of the questions that the group who planned 9/11 asked him was, well, who are you working for? And his answer was, you wouldn't know him if I told you. Amen. He's his own guy.
He's a bright person. I'll give him that.
He is.
I just didn't know where he came from.
He's red-blooded American. He's written a book called Lizards Eat Butterflies, and the book that he wrote about his experience of 9/11 is called, oh my gosh, The Enterprise That Stole the Presidency. Coup de 12, The Enterprise That Stole the Presidency. And it's one of those books where the names have changed, but the story is real. And he wrote it as a dead man switch. That's what I've been told, if you're familiar with that term.
So he's kind of like, he's a whistleblower more or less, but not really clearly.
He was speaking at the Oklahoma Capitol today on COVID. He was with Dr. Peter Corey and half a dozen other doctors and scientists, and he's making waves. He's doing just what we are in a different way. He's been narrowly focused on COVID because biological warfare was his baby for many, many years. He got asked to participate in the anthrax investigations. If you remember, everybody remembers 9/11, 2001, but not too many people remember 9/18, 2001, 26, 27, and 28, when the anthrax letters were distributed across the country and to politicians and journalists. And it was people within our own government who were very interested in that. And he's been tracking 58 patented biological warfare agents since. Yeah, there he is. Gene's got him pulled up.
Wait, is he CIA? Is that what he is?
There are CIA operatives and they're CIA agents, from my understanding.
Right, right.
I've never been in the CIA, and I think he has contracted with the CIA. He's worked with our own intelligence agencies. But of course, those are bureaucracies, just like any other organization. There are good and bad aspects to our government, and he's trying to make changes better for humanity from the inside. He stood up on a pedestal during COVID, and that's kind of knocked him back a notch, but he just keeps going. He's like the Energizer Bunny. I don't know where he gets his energy from.
Tony, that was him at that representatives conference that you just sent a little bit ago.
Yes.
So he was there, and they're looking into basically liabilities for people that went along with the COVID thing.
Yes, that's correct.
Can't do it. They've gotten the Congress to pass they have no liability. They have no liability.
Well,
It's
we
gone.
live in a world where it's just as easy to buy a politician as it is a lawyer or a doctor or a scientist. And yeah, it's
Not always.
sometimes you got to shame these people. You got to wake them up and say, hey, some people are just oblivious to it. They don't know. They just go along with the mainstream narrative. I call it the fuel stream narrative, because it fuels so many different things. But
I don't blame the public. They're so busy trying to keep their bills paid nowadays. They get things thrown at them left and right. Things are not clear for the public. They really don't know what's going on.
I experienced that at the fire department. The last 3 years, we were in the midst of contract negotiations, and everybody is narrowly focused on money. And the one thing that's losing value is what they want the most. It's very hard argument. They don't understand how our currency system works. They don't understand the national debt. They don't understand how taxes are used as a leverage for policy. And they rightfully so. They need more of it to do what they need to do. They have families and mortgages to pay and rent to pay, and God forbid medical bills, all the things, right? But not only does David teach the 12 senses and how you experience the world around you, he also teaches what he calls integral accounting and asset management. And I took that class in 2020 as I was recovering from COVID, and it just changed the way I view the world. He looks at 6 dimensions. Most see the 3D world around us. He looks at the world in 3 dimensions. And those dimensions are commodity, customs and culture and community, knowledge, technology, money, or more appropriately, stores of value, and well-being. And by looking through those 6 dimensions and doing an integral accounting assessment, he can figure out things more accurately. He can distinguish fact from fiction and use the 12 senses to his advantage. And I think that's part of what's part of his genius. He's constantly thinking about all these things, and I've never seen somebody able to take so much information, take it in, and disassemble it in a coherent manner to paint a true picture. And it's hard for me to articulate.
CIA is good at psychological operations too.
Well, yeah,
They always
but
have been.
that's what he's teaching us. He's saying that the war that's being waged. Have you ever heard the term full spectrum dominance? Land, air, sea, and we really think we know what that means. We don't.
It's a book on it. Yeah.
Yeah, full spectrum dominance is those six things. It's it's the world around us. You can take those six dimensions, and there's not anything in front of you or around you that it doesn't encompass. It's an integral aspect.
We do have other people on with their hand raised, so let's get back to the topic of 9/11.
Mhm.
Yeah, appreciate this, and I will need to ask you if any of this personal information about David Martin should be on the recording. Yeah. So anyway, we'll take that off topic. So Neeson has his hand raised next. Welcome, Neeson. Go ahead.
Greetings. And I want to thank you. First of all, I want to start by thanking you, Tony Robbins, for your service. You're doing great work. And I am very happy when you mentioned some of the things you mentioned earlier, especially Plato's Allegory of the Cave, one of my favorites as well. And what I want to do is talk about a similar thing, where I want to Augustus's reference to King, I think it's King Idaman, was about Don Quixote, in reference to Don Quixote, because it's not enough to just state what is happening. We also have to work to figure out how we could deal with these solutions. And I think that's a good reference point of saying, because even the small echo chamber, as you put it, the small bubbles, that experience is as real to them as real to anything else is real. And garnering from that, from understanding even those illusions, experiences can be gained and be used to something of a positive effect. So, just like Don Quixote, even though his fights were imaginary, his morals and experiences from those were real and were very positive. Understanding that we are now, like you were saying, in a full spectrum dominant situation, the major issue we're dealing with is a psychological warfare and informational warfare. And I think the key is how do we use those techniques that we've learned that are indicative to the human condition of understanding how the human mind works, and how can we use that to further a more positive and more well-being in pushing forward and to raising the consciousness. Now, I know people like the other guy you mentioned before, I'm not going to say his name because of the recording, he is obviously operating on a higher level of consciousness, and he's raising other people's consciousness up. But I think it's also important that we, of the higher consciousness, work to find ways of working together in the interplay instead of our small little bubbles ourselves. So I want to see if you have any thoughts of how you could work with other people like me, in both working in our circles and outside them to create a stronger network to build towards a more positive and better future. I am director of Human First America, and the way I'm dealing right now is specifically dealing with the electoral system. The way I deal with the problem is not by trying to fix the current system, but instead I'm trying to build an entirely new system that is an alternative, because it's not enough because some people are just not going to change. The system is not designed to change, it's designed to be rigid. But what we can do is offer a whole new system, an alternate way of being. Now, maybe making people cross that bridge is another difficulty. We're all trying to figure out and experiment how that works. But I would like to get your thoughts on that particular aspect and something for you to think about, as well as if other than the guy you mentioned before, have there been other higher conscious members talking about this too, in which we should be able to contact and gather together, which I think would be very useful together.
Yeah. Well, kudos to you, Nissan, for thinking outside the box. I've certainly tipped a few windmills in my day, And sometimes that thins the amount of friends that you have. But I found that the relationships that that come after tipping those windmills are typically stronger and deeper and more meaningful. So yeah, I'm with you. I've got a lot of crazy ideas too, and it's hard to get people to listen sometimes, and sometimes I don't articulate it very well. And that's why I brought up the 12 cranial nerves. At least 6 of them, half of them are meant for communal effect. We have afferent and efferent properties in these nerves. They move inwardly and outwardly. And, I think that there's a war being waged on the way we interact with each other, whether it's subconsciously. Look at us hosting a meeting over Zoom. Wouldn't it be great if we could get together in person and shake hands and smile, and share the same space? Can we really?
Old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Is there something missing there that the future generations aren't going to get the opportunity to experience? And human neural anatomy and the lives that we've been given is amazing. Because when you start realizing that we triangulate with our senses constantly, it unlocks a code. And I think they've identified 940 some odd intelligences that humans are capable of. And it doesn't give AI a chance.
Great.
The potential for human creativity and the ability to live our lives fully is amazing. When my buddy John at the fire department died, I went back and read the chapter of John in the New Testament. And, one of the passages that really struck me was John 14:12. It's one of those passages that start with verily, verily. You got to pay attention to those. Verily, verily, I say unto you, you can do the things that I do and even greater things. And so I'm not giving up on humanity. I'm living my best life. I'm having a great ride. I want the same for everyone else. I really do. But we have to be doers. We got to show up and do the work. We have to participate in our own humanity and stop relying on a blind faith and authority for others to do it for us. I'm not anti-government. I'm not anti all the things, but I see the problems. And it's up to us. Thank you, Nissan.
Well,
Does that answer? Does that help at all?
That was a nice speech, but it missed kind of the core of the question, which was in what ways do you think you would find you could think of in which we could collaborate and find and work towards a solution, building a solution.
I think
Tony, I think I got a good to help. I don't know. Hurt. I forgot the word. Anyways, what we were talking about with the training for.
yes,
There we go. Okay.
training. Yes, absolutely. I think that there's opportunity, whether it starts as one class or if there's an entire academy of teaching things that we know to be true. I've always found answers in nature. When I was at the fire department, I always taught my younger guys that there is no irrelevant knowledge. The things that are out there that will hurt you and hurt others are endless. And therefore, your learning is lifelong, low stress, and most importantly, fun. And there's a ton of things to learn. I mean, we narrowly teach fire tactics and rescue, and there's some guys that specialize in extrication, and other guys specialize in bombs, and other guys specialize in hazmat, but we still call ourselves firefighters, and we're doing all these things. And nobody's really teaching. It's like the roots of what we need to learn are there. Paramedics are familiar with 12 cranial nerves, but they're still taught that they have 5 senses. Some of them don't know, the difference between right and wrong. You point to the men and women's bathroom and they're like, well, where's the non-binary, whatever, and then you teach the guys that were former military guys, the same thing. They're like, oh, that's a man's restroom and that's a woman's restroom, but they don't know the difference between offense and defense. Why do we call it the Defense Department? See, we've got all these blurry lines. And I think that it's okay to teach fact from fiction. And how do we distinguish that? It's okay to teach right from wrong. Where's the fire department ethics class? We take an oath. We teach morals, but where is the ethics class at the National Fire Academy? I don't know. It's never been offered to me. So I think my great commission is to teach others. I've taught paramedicine, I've taught firefighting, I've taught extrication, I've taught people how to fly. Over 3,000 hours of dual given teaching people how to fly airplanes. I've only had 3 failures in the last 20 years.
That's awesome.
It's not bad. The FAA has labeled me a gold seal instructor, whatever that is. Yeah.
That's awesome. Great segue to the next person who has his hand raised, Raul Angulo.
Hey, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir.
Okay, thank you for your kind words. So, Tony, you only had 3 failures in your class?
3 failures.
Those were the terrorists, the 3 terrorists?
No. One guy was a Kansas City police helicopter captain. He was overtaking the whole unit. The guy walked into his private pilot add-on, fixed wing add-on training with such an ego. The examiner saw right through it. He just made this check ride a mess. So
it was a bad joke.
I won't say any names, but
it was a bad joke. But yeah. No, but along the lines of instruction, I was going to ask if you'd share that story, because to me, that was one of the most enlightening things that you said, that you tried to get your students to fly the flight pattern and none of them could. Can you tell that story?
Yeah, well, pilots come in all shapes and sizes. Everybody starts in the small single engine propeller airplane, and it takes 40 hours minimum to receive a private pilot certification. And the next level of pilot is commercial, which requires at least 250 hours. And then the master's degree of aviation is the ATP, or Airline Transport Pilot certification. That's 1,500 hours. Unless you go through a college program, then it's 1,250. But pilots aren't cut from the same cloth. We're all a direct result of our previous experiences. And so some know how to navigate, others not so much. And I did a series of experiments where we did maneuvers for private pilot, steep turns, low flight, stalls, and asked them, okay, it's time to navigate back to the Kansas City downtown airport. Let's see if you can dead reckon your way there first. And of course, the vast majority of those students wouldn't know which way to fly. They'd try to look for landmarks like the river, roads or something. And, you know, today you can track airplanes on websites like FlightAware, Radar 24, and the apps that we use like ForeFlight. It draws a green line right across the map. And you can take a student that doesn't have very much experience, and that line will be squiggly, and he may never find his way back. You can take a student with 100 hours with an instrument rating, and he knows to tune in a VOR or program the GPS, and he can fly a relatively straighter line. And, you know, another pilot might even couple an autopilot, and the airplane will fly a precise straight line to where you need to go. So those kind of details, that granularity that I had in aviation, tying it to the alleged hijackers of 9/11 didn't make a whole lot of sense. You know, what the 9/11 Commission put out in their information and what was shown on the news were pretty straight lines clear across Pennsylvania. I don't know how pilots with that alleged amount of experience would know how to do, you know, the lines looked precise enough to be on autopilot. You'd think that if there was some sort of struggle with box knives and pepper spray or whatever went through, there would be some squiggly lines there. There'd certainly be a change in altitude or something that you know, showed some sort of conflict. I have yet to see the original radar traces. And I don't even know if they made the real ones public. I don't know.
But I think you said your students were not able to fly into Tower 1 or 2 and the Pentagon, right?
It'd be very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the somehow amazing 270-degree turn down, straight down over the highway, and then ground effect flight straight into a side of a wall that was under construction. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's a pretty miraculous maneuver. You know, the rate of descent that the airplane was doing and the direction of the turn. Mind you, if the airplane were light enough, if they had, you know, lighter fuel load, you know, is it plausible? Maybe. That was one of the things that that I saw Dan Hanley say, you know, would have ripped the wings off of the airplane. I kind of scratched my head. If you've ever seen Boeing put airplanes through destructive testing, they bend the wings up and they don't break in that manner. But
somehow hit 5 lampposts and the wings were perfectly fine.
Yeah, I don't. It seems implausible. I'll say that much. It seems very, very difficult, and I'm considering skill level of the pilot and capability of the aircraft as well. Yeah, there are details. You know, the thing that sticks out the most is the missing information in those reports. You know, not necessarily what everybody else has come up with over the years. I'm not a no planer. I don't buy into that, but drones, maybe. You know, I don't know what hit the Pentagon. I wasn't there for any of it, but I know what didn't occur afterwards, and that's a real investigation.
Well, I'm not sure if it was just me, but it seemed like there were a lot more images this year on Google if you typed in September 11th, the towers and all that. And you know, I live underneath the flight path of Orange County, and you can see the planes. They look silver, they look aluminum. You can see the markings for Alaska and the various markings. But the pictures that I was seeing on the internet, all the planes that I saw were black. They were black. They didn't have any markings that even resembled a commercial flight. And one of them even had this bulbous, round, spherical, you know, nodule in the fuselage between the tail wing and the main wings. But then I don't know if there's Photoshop or whatever. People could make them look like whatever they want. But it seems to me that a lot of the pictures that I see, and I took a bunch of screenshots of them, they just didn't look like commercial jets to me, and they were black. And the ones I see overhead flying over my house, which I'm sure are pretty close to 10,000 feet by that point, you could still tell that they're commercial and not black or something other than looks like a commercial jetliner.
Yeah, I've been into Santa Ana very many times. I was just there and I called you up and you weren't
I
there.
know, I know. I was leaving, yeah.
You heading to Turkey, Istanbul. The thing you need to realize, when an airport has traffic around, they're either in the landing condition or departure condition. They're configured with flaps, the landing gear is down, and they're slowing down to land, or they're climbing and at a slower speed too. All aircraft are limited to 250 knots below 10,000 feet in the continental United States. That's Class E airspace. So you can't go faster than 250 anyway. When they're landing, they're doing 130 to 150 knots. So your eyes have time to fix on the livery or the colors of the airplane, and you can identify it that way. In a sophisticated, militarized thing like 9/11, the airplanes were moving very, very fast. And so by the time you heard it, I don't know if you've ever been to an air show and saw an F-16 or the Blue Angels do a flyby. Well, the airplane will fly by and then later the sound catches up with it. And so there's no time to point a camera or to look and really read anything. And that was by design, I think.
Okay. So for some reason I'm having a little trouble getting back to my screen. Someone else, I think Gene has his hand raised.
Yep. Just a couple quick things. One, I think Nissan was asking, like, how do we form a new paradigm that we can live like we should instead of underneath their control? And when I mentioned training, what I meant was our idea with Papa was creating a training program for firefighters to look for basically controlled demolitions when you're going into a building. So we're kind of just like sidestepping head on, this is the evidence, this is blah, blah, blah. We could just say, hey, we don't have to go into their construct. We can create our own paradigm where, okay, why don't we just look for these things when you're going into a building? I don't know if you could speak on that real quick, but that wasn't my question.
Yeah, I don't have all the answers for that. The fire service, not necessarily fire departments, they do have dogs, but we use them in investigations. We look for hydrocarbons and bombs with dogs. We have to call the state. Usually it's hours later that those dogs arrive. So I don't know how viable that would be.
But Tony, I think it was about something else altogether. It's about building. How do we build a new system? I think that was like Nissan's question, right? How do we build a new system instead of like engaging with their system on their turf? Why don't we build a new system on our own terms and draw people into that? I don't know if I'm conveying that. So what Jean then was saying with the class that we were talking about, Raul teaching this class about high-rise safeties, do you stay in place or do you evacuate? All of this idea of a class, that falls exactly into that idea of building something brand new. It's never existed before, this class, right? And we're basically just putting it out there. Yeah, it happens in this day and age that some buildings will be rigged with explosives, and we're going about it with the idea of how do you look for that kind of danger? And oh, by the way, yeah, we may have had a couple of cases like that in the past, such as Building 7 and Towers 1 and 2. So I think Jean was mentioning that as an example of a
Mhm.
way for us on our turf to build something new that we get to decide how it's going to get taught, how it's going to get communicated, how people are going to participate in it. And for all the other systems, it's like, screw you, you can do your own thing. We're doing this, and it's built on truth, and hopefully it'll draw the people in. So all of that just to clarify that I think that that's what everybody was saying.
Thanks. Tony.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Think
nail
so.
on head, nail on head right there.
All right. And
Yeah.
but then Jean actually had a question.
Yeah, I think that's a great topic for discussion. I like to think of myself as not very political, you know. I'm frustrated with our political system as it is. I don't fall into the isms, whether it's communism or capitalism or socialism. I said before, I find answers in nature. And I think that if you look back over the eons of our history, that there are great examples of civilizations that have failed and civilizations that have thrived. And that's exactly why I mentioned Dr. David Martin. I don't know. I don't know what the world would look like in a utopia, but I'm certainly for building a more perfect union. I would love to see something better on the face of this planet, better than what I found it.
Yeah.
That wasn't my question, but thank you. Sorry, I want to get to it. I don't know how my hand went back down, but real quick, Tony had mentioned flight aware, and Tony, here's an example where you say where a good pilot flies a straight line, and I think this is your example of where a novice pilot cannot make a great straight line. My question for you actually has nothing to do with that. My question was, when we were at Papa, like this conversation was a huge conversation. My question for you is, when you approach people in public or at the NFPA convention, how do you approach people or start to talk to them about 9/11?
And how should we approach firefighters? Going back to Al's question, which he asked, and I was really waiting to see if you could give us some guidelines on how to best approach, let's say, if we were to go to firehouses, what are the do's and don'ts, or is it just the same thing as your average do and don't with the average person in the street?
Well,
but sorry, but you answered his question first. Sorry, but
I think it's just like you would approach anybody else. You know, firefighters are human too, and if you show up with a smile, hey, you know, introduce yourself. My name's Tony Robbins, and I'm from out of town, and I really dig fire trucks. In fact, I collect patches from other departments, and you know, I was wondering if you had any station T-shirts for my daughter at home. You know, start with just being human, and you know, being able to strike a conversation with them. You know, for me, there's commonality. You know, I'm a captain. I always ask, well, how do you run your truck, or how do you organize your space in your truck? You know, what kind of hose are you carrying? How do you lay it? You know, and that small talk can lead to other things. You know, I was in Dallas during COVID, and I got to visit the downtown station right by the hospital. It's a hazmat and a fire station. They serve multi-purpose. I forget which station number it was, but you know, you could sense the frustration on these guys' faces. They're like, yeah, what's going on is bullshit, you know? And I'm like, yeah, it's bullshit. And that opened up a whole opportunity for more in-depth conversation. You can't start it, you know, with activism. You have to have a relationship with somebody first. And sometimes you'd be surprised how quickly you can build trust, and you know, just by sharing a little bit of your own story, you know, just opening up to them, and they'll typically open up to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, but in continuation of that, if somebody were to present to you a solution, a system, something actionable, will you be down to support it? And what would you be willing to do to, would you be willing to push that agenda and to show that something else is of actual available? Because I don't believe we don't have the solutions. I believe the solution's already there. Just nobody wants to actually put in the work of putting forward these solutions.
Yeah. But what you're talking about is something in the flesh. I think, yeah, to answer your question, yes, I'm down for the cause, for whatever. If I think it'll work, I'm all in. If we fail trying, we'll learn from it and we'll move on. I'm seeking answers just like the rest of you, but we have to have certain things in place first. You use the term belief. If
Yes.
something I believe in, well, on this planet, I either know or I don't know. A belief is an acceptance of something unverifiable. Let's stop skirting around the gray areas. Let's define belief what it is.
True.
Do
So,
you believe in things around? Is that do you believe in what's
I
around?
consider
Or do you
myself
want-
an experience of things.
Yeah, I believe in the things that I can't prove outwardly. And I think that a system for humanity that you speak of, I think that there's an answer out there. I think that we can improve on what we've got. In fact, I have certainty that we can.
All right.
Yeah, that's really cool. When you have certainty here in the flesh, that's a really powerful thing. I save my belief for the things that I can't prove outwardly.
Yeah. So yeah, but so that's okay. But I'm glad if something was presented to you, you would be helping to work on it, because I have so much things I could present to you that would be very effective if somebody would try.
Give him my email, Gene. Yeah. Thank you, Nissan.
No, thank you, Tom. And again, I appreciate your service and what you're doing. Doing good work.
Yeah.
Raul has his hand raised again.
Hey, just to follow up on Gene and Sandra's question. So, right before this article came out, I had to give a heads up to a couple of FDNY guys. And the way I approached it, Gene, especially one guy in particular who's a battalion chief there, I said, hey, we're already 23 years. We're coming up on a quarter of a century to September 11th. And has your perspective changed at all on what you think really happened? And that was the intro that I used, was that, has your perspective changed? Or do you still think everything went down the way it did? And by now, a lot of people have already have different perspectives, just like that photo that you showed a little while ago. Those were New York guys. I think they were captains and chiefs, those two guys there. And they got very emotional as we pursued it, but they were willing to listen. Actually, I think it's just the guy on the right. He's a FDNY battalion chief, I believe. But he didn't walk away. He wasn't upset. He wasn't insulted, and he wasn't hostile, because I think after 23 years, he's given it more thought, and he's been hearing more and more coming out that you start to put the pieces together. So that's how I approached it. If you wanted a guideline, in addition to building those relationships, like Tony mentioned, which is crucial, but maybe sometimes you don't have the time and you want to get right to the point. I would say we're coming on a quarter of a century, and has your perspective changed on the events of September 11th? And I think that's a good way to break the ice and let them start talking.
Right.
Thank you. you guys, it took 20 minutes, I think, they're talking to that guy. So that one wasn't a quick conversation, but that was a valuable conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But to ask someone if their perspective changed means that you know what their perspective was. If you're talking to someone where you have absolutely no idea where they stand, and obviously you have a relationship with these guys because they know you and they know where you're coming from. Well, they know you, and and just out of curiosity, how did they? You said that you felt you needed to give them a heads up. How did they react when you told them that you wrote this article?
No, it was very positive.
Okay.
It was very positive on all of them. And the perspective that I'm talking about is pretty much the official narrative. I mean, everybody, when you ask that question, you could just assume that it's the common knowledge of September 11th that you're going to get just looking it up on Wikipedia.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's kind of like the baseline, right?
Right.
And so when you say that, has it changed? Has it changed from like the official narrative?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
understood. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that gives them a chance to open up about it. And they're going to come back and say, why has yours? Yeah, they will. And they all did. And so I said, well, yeah. And then I went on, and it was quick for me because I had an article. I mean, if you're just going to talk, you're not going to do that. But I said, I needed to give you a heads up because this article is coming out day after tomorrow. And it has a totally different perspective. But that's what worked for me is, has your perspective changed, I like quarter of a century better than 25 years because it sounds like a long time.
It does.
Yeah.
It is a long time.
It is, yeah. So anyway, I hope you find that helpful as a guideline.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's see. Miles has his hand.
Yeah, I was wondering with respect to what you said about community, Tony, and being in the flesh present with people is much more energetic than webinars. They're fabulous because we can connect. Just wondering if you and Will have plans for a road show. The article is in an international fire and safety journal. Is this an opportunity to, as a to for Papa, Rao, and yourself?
Miles, if there's wind, if you're outside and it's windy, we can't hear you.
It's all
Okay.
There you go. Get close to the mic.
So sorry. So I was just wondering if there's an opportunity for going in as get out on the road with your article, maybe even an tour, to press the flesh with firefighters. I'm in Calgary. We've got 42 fire halls in this city. I visited about 18 of them, but like follow up, is there some plans there? Could you hear me?
Yeah. Is that question to me? Is that question to me?
Yeah.
Is that for me, Raul?
Both of you, if you can tell us.
Well, you go first, Tony.
Well, we've already been discussing a trip to FDIC. We'd have to raise money and be invited to that. I think they're probably out of booth space this year. But yeah, I think that I'd be willing to seize every opportunity to get together again and put myself in front of people. But it's not just us; it's everybody. And not only do we need to be more human and engage with each other, but how do we do it better?
Well, maybe there could be a fund not only for the annual NFPA convention, but maybe we could get a fund going on PAPA for subsidizing your travel to fire halls around North America and potentially internationally. It'd be a good, really good, great cause because the firefighters have such a respect. All first responders always hold such a high respect among the population. And I think people would if we could get the word out to get funds, donations coming in for your expenses, people would donate.
There's a guy in Canada, out of Toronto, I believe, Gordon Routley. I don't know if you ever heard of Gordon Routley. He's a retired chief. Actually, I think he's Montreal. He's Montreal Fire. Anyway, and I know Gordon. I'm going to send him the article, and that would be a good deal. He would be very important to spearhead something that you're requesting, because Gordon has been on numerous investigation committees for firefighter fatalities. And once you get on one, you get on another, then you kind of become the go-to guy whenever there's a firefighter fatality, or if you're going to do an investigation, who can we get? And Gordon's name comes up fairly regularly. And I think that he's almost been on more investigations than anyone, especially someone from Canada. So I'll send him my article and see what he thinks on that. As far as what's in the future, the journal is going to be publishing at least 2 more issues of this article in the hard copy edition. Obviously, it's going to be condensed and edited heavily because of space, but we're also going to change the title and work it up a little bit. And the International Firefighter, which is a competing journal out of England, also wants to publish this information. So that should still happen. And then finally, I just did a podcast today with Andy Steele, and he would like to do another follow-up podcast along with Paul Cayley. So those are the immediate plans for the follow-up that I think are going to have a far greater reach than us just going to FDIC and the national conference. And all this class that Tony's talking about, I mean, I've heard about it, but and I guess I'm teaching it, Tony. I don't know.
That's right. Yeah.
That still has to be.
Front
That
and
still.
center.
That still has to be.
Volunteered.
That still has to be worked out, but there are going to be some follow-up magazines and opportunity with the media. So this is out there, and I would, if you go to any of the fire halls in Montreal, just say, hi, I'm so-and-so. I know it's coming on quarter of a century. I was wondering if your perspective has changed about September 11th. And obviously it has for this American fire captain. I was wondering if you've read this article or were aware of this article, and send them the link or tell them about it, or to go to the journal. And that's a quick way of helping to get the word out. So.
Yeah, definitely do that, because I'd love to follow up with I'm in Calgary, Alberta, but I did go around with the Papa brochure and just saying hello to the guys when I rang the door, come down and say, here a token of appreciation. I'm hearing for Papa, and now I could go back to those same fire halls and I could just say, hey, there's some updates for you.
Yeah, you could just say there's this very lengthy update that I happen to see, because it takes it off you, it puts it on me, and I'm an unknown. But you're basically saying, hey, I read this article from this fire guy from Seattle. I was wondering if you've seen it and what's your take on it, you know, and do it like that, because you're coming to an expert them, right? And you're saying, well, what about this? And you know how those Americans are, they love to exaggerate. I mean, you could do whatever you want to deflect it from you, but it opens the door, I think.
I did that because I just would say, hey, I'm just going around a token of appreciation for the work that firefighters do for the community. And I think this is an important initiative with Protecting All Protectors Association.
Yeah.
So, I quite enjoyed it. It was really nice.
Just go like that. I found this article really intriguing. I was wondering what you thought about it, and lead them to it, and they'll get back to you. I don't know. I haven't seen it. Well, I don't know. I really would love to talk to you later about it, but here it is, and let me know what you think. And it takes it all off you. They're they're not going to come at you and go, what's his angle? You could put it on me because I'm an unknown. I'm not there.
Is that article going to be like can you buy it in bulk, like without just printing it off in like the glossy paper or something like that, like Gage used to do?
Well, the link is there, and I'd share it with everybody that you want to. Gene put the link in the chat deal, but I would send it to all your groups.
It's 72 pages, so I thought maybe
that's why the link is good, and they wanted to do it on the web first, which is good, because the magazine article, which I'm sure you can get in bulk, first of all, you got to pay for that, and it's going to come from England, so I'm not sure if that's the most cost-effective way to do it, but it's going to be severely condensed. The web article, that's the complete argument. I mean, I left no stone unturned, and the message is complete. So I would just try and use the link as much as you can.
Yeah, but for Jane's, I don't think that Jane is aware that this article came out online in its entirety this week, but it's going to be published in the printed version probably in the next 4 editions, from what I understand. It's going to be cut off. It's going to be cut into sections because it's too long for one printed magazine article. So it's going to come out in the November, December, January, February issue, and maybe even March. So if you're talking about buying bulk copies, you have to buy 5 of them. So that alone already doesn't make any sense.
Plus the magazine is going to go out to a target audience. The general public will never see it because they don't even know about that magazine.
No, but we could get the magazines and give them out in firehouses, for example.
Oh yeah, you can do that.
About the hard copy, yeah.
You can do that, but I think if you're going to spend any money, I would make like little cards with the website, or I don't know, Gene, if they do those what do you call those square things you scan?
The QR codes.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a QR code that you can take it to, and just give them cards. That would be a better way to do it.
Actually, that's a great idea. QR code.
Because then they would read the whole article. Yeah, they get the whole article at once.
Yeah, and Gene could even make just like
and Gene can.
I can try, but it's not
Gene, you're getting volunteer.
Yeah.
I can try, and Gene's gonna say, no, let me do it. I'll show you how to do it. No, but seriously, just like a flyer, an 8.5 by 11 for the pop-up, but then we put in the QR code to the article.
I think we just give Tony one of these.
Yes.
You just made that.
The other thing.
You made that in like 3 seconds. I bet.
Yeah, just
because what Miles was asking, I think, and I'm sorry to keep doing this, but it's like I just have this where it's like I kind of hear what people are saying, and then anyways, I got a mediation degree, so maybe that explains it. But I think Miles was suggesting like a concert tour, a Papa concert tour, kind of like where, Tony and Raul, you guys, I was going to say rent a bus, but Tony can just fly the plane, right? From city to city. And, and you'll have, go to the firehouses or choose a firehouse in the city and invite firefighters to join for your great presentation. And then you can sign autographs after, and you're going to have to turn the groupies away because you're married. And then you just get back on the plane and you go to the next city, and it could be like, the Papa World Tour of 2025.
Well, dream big.
Yeah.
Well, Raul's retired. He can do it. Tony might have to wait for a bit, but anyways, but yeah, I think that's what Miles was saying. Like, would you consider just literally going city to city to the firehouses and just giving your presentations or talking to the fire people or something like that?
Lawrence had his hand raised for a long time.
Sorry.
But he took it down. Did you still have a question?
I never saw his hand up.
Yeah, my hand is still up. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. This is for Papa people, for Tony and Raul and Eric. I spent a good amount of time and energy at the Massachusetts Department of Fire Services, handing out DVDs and the flyers that Gene made up after the event, after the National Fire Protection Association meeting. I was wondering if you know if anyone from this group in Massachusetts has responded, replied in any way.
I
Not
don't,
that I'm aware of. No,
Not that I'm aware of. No.
no, no. I haven't heard anything from any.
Yeah, handed out over 80 over 80 to 100 flyers and every DVD that Richard sent me. I think there was about 60 of them. So you don't know if there's been any response whatsoever. Okay, just checking in. Thanks.
well, because there's no response doesn't mean that they didn't take the information in and consider it. Yeah, because this is shit, really.
Yeah, don't be dismayed. I actually printed off the whole article, and I even did it one-sided. It's like 80 pages, and made my wife mad because I used the rest of the ink in the printer. And my intent is to I'm gonna, when I was in college, I learned that there's a certain thud value, is what I call it. Thud, when you lay it on your old chief's desk and it thud, that there's probably a human factor there that resonates a little more.
Is my article 80 pages?
When you print it, it is. Yeah, with all the
no,
pictures and
jeez.
everything. Yeah. I probably could have shrunk it, but I also printed it one-sided. I was specifically going for the thud value.
Jeez, 80, my gosh.
I love that description, thud value.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Are we talking about a different article than the one that's 72 that just got put in the chat?
no, it's the same.
Yeah,
article.
that same
That's
article.
72 pages.
72.
Is there
Well,
another one?
It printed off, I think, 80.
No.
No. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I just tried printing it during our Zoom right now, and it jammed my printer.
Jeez, you guys are embarrassing me.
I have
My
a
printer
request, which is I've been
had cognitive dissonance and just refused to.
Oh gosh.
I have a request that the link to that article be shared from Susan or Al or whomever in our group to your article. I couldn't. I've been kicked off 3 or 4 times, and there's no information in the chat. So could you please share that a link to your article broadly?
It is.
Yes.
Thank you.
It is in the chat. I'll put it at the link in again right now.
Or I'm sure if you just go to International Fire and Safety Journal.com, it'll come up. International Fire and Safety Journal.
Yeah, but it is in the chat. Here it comes again. That's the title, and here's the link. Come on, send. There we go. So let's see, Magnus, Mr. Netherlands has his hand raised.
Norway.
Norge.
Thank you, Raul and Tony. What I want to ask for is, would you please send your page in the chat where people can donate, because I am running around to fire departments and showing info and trying to get them to donate. So would you please send something in the chat if you have a page or something I can visit?
Also, for some reason, chat is not working for me, and I would appreciate it if you would share. Anyone would share that via an email. Share that link via email.
It's also on my Facebook.
Okay, I'll check that out. Thanks.
Magnus, if you go to protectingall.org, along the top bar, there is a donate button, and the funds would go right to the PAPA group.
Cool. Thank you. You guys are doing a very great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Magnus.
Cool.
Magnus is the thumbs up guy. I love it.
Old guy. He's going to be our speaker coming up. What did we agree on?
December 12th.
December 12th. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. That
Yeah,
will be lovely.
you've done amazing research.
Thank you.
So, on that note, any other comments, questions?
No, I thank these firefighters for doing what they're doing. I thank Tony and Raul. Amazing work you're doing. Thank you so much. Very, very much. I'm going to share your article with the board of directors of the lawyers committee, because I don't know they've all seen it, but thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I've got 3 dogs now, so I got to go.
Jane, are you on the lawyers committee? for
Yes.
9/11? Oh, well, thank you.
Oh,
You've done
no.
a lot of great work.
hitting a lot of
She's the
walls half
founder.
the time.
She's
You're the founder.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Cool.
Co-founder, Mick and I. Yeah,
Yeah. Awesome.
true.
Commendable. Thank you very much.
It's hard. It's
I
hard.
know. I know.
Federal judges, with the first judge we got was George Bush's first cousin.
My gosh.
That wasn't very good at the ballot level.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that didn't help us a whole lot.
Uh-huh. Nepotism. They didn't allow nepotism at my fire department.
They do what they want.
Yeah, I know.
Sue, could I bookend Tony with one of his clips from calling out? Well, there's a little from firefighters for 9/11 Truth.
Snippets.
Yes, that's a good way to wrap this up.
All right, here we go.
Oh no.
Yeah, this
My
one.
ugly face.
Don't wrap it up. I've got a comment too.
Oop. Here we go.
After you.
Hello, my name is Tony Robbins. I am a professional firefighter in the United States with 25 years of service. This year, to honor the 343 firefighters who fell on 9/11, I've watched the documentary Mount Bravo 7 and passed it along to others. Please do the same. Never forget, but misled, never again.
Yeah.
We need to keep doing that. That's really effective.
There's one firefighter that died. Tony, I don't know if but he kept saying to us, please avenge us, please avenge us. Do you remember that firefighter from New York?
Oh,
He died
yeah, the
from
guy
a
that
lung.
had a pulmonary
Right.
condition from the air. I remember that.
I remember his talk. It was so powerful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's right. We need to keep pushing and pushing for the truth, because damn it, it's there. We just have to get it open. We know
Yeah.
we at the Pentagon, I talked to a guy directly that was involved with all the pictures that they took right after it happened. And I couldn't talk him into letting us see anything. He said, it's a private company. I'll have to check with them and I'll get back to you. You know, that's the kind of stuff we're running into. You know, when it's not a government entity, you can't FOIA it. And these
Right.
people are the ones that got possession of all these pictures in the Pentagon inside the building when right after it happened. So we're running into that all the time, running into the court sealing documents, everything. So
Look them right in the eye and just ask them, what kind of world do you want for your children?
they don't care.
Well, no,
They don't care.
I know.
If
Sue,
they
I
care
know
to be
you're
okay.
Sue, I know you're pressed for time. I had queued up another one that I think Tony would really like to be played. It's only another.
Oh, no.
No, I think you'll like it.
Increase the volume.
Okay. Let me
Oh,
yeah. Let me
sorry, brother.
change my audio settings. Here we go.
Can't hear it at all.
All right. I'm gonna try one more time. Forgive me, I know you're squashed for time. I'm just gonna
Well,
go
we
back.
have an agenda after this.
Hi, my name is John Yeager. I was a professional firefighter in the United States with 27 years of service. This year, to honor the 343 firefighters who fell on 9/11, I've watched the documentary Calling Out Bravo 7 and passed it on to others. Please do the same. Never forget, but misled, never again. Hi, my name is John.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thanks for that, Gene.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing you should know about John, he poked the bear hard enough. He was put on administrative leave the last couple months of his career at the fire department. That's how
Because
he
of that
retired.
post? Because of that
No.
post?
No, for 9/11 related controversy within the fire station.
Interesting.
Yeah, they pulled the anti-Semitic card on him, and they really put him in a hard corner. But yeah, the guy was solid gold, man.
Everybody needs to pray in person. Sheila, the wife, for
Yeah, Sheila is his wife.
sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we do have to move on to our agenda items.
Can I make a comment, Sue?
Oh, of course. Go ahead, Chuck.
Tony, you talk about people not using their whole mind. And I've run into two situations. People are just totally uninformed. And then the other one is you show them a video in the pamphlets and they look at you and say, well, Bill O'Reilly says, something different. And, or, any media figure. And I believe it's fluoride in the water is clogging their pineal gland and they can't connect things.
Yeah, maybe. I read an article about that that just came out recently. There was some sort of court proceeding. Yeah, I'm not a chemist. I didn't study biology. But yeah, I know I've had the same struggle with a lot of people, seeing things eye to eye, and it's a challenge. Humans are complicated, man.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Yes, for sure.
Who isn't already on the same page as you. You have to first get on a personal level and find common ground and find nuggets you can build from there. So it's time consuming, but it can be done.
Yeah.
Yeah. But thank you so much, Tony, for joining us. I'm so delighted you were able to join us, and been beyond expectations, enlightening. And I hope you will come back and join us again sometime.
It's been my honor. Thank you, Susan, and everyone else.
I'm going to stop recording and we'll start the
Thanks.
portion of our